So guess what? I have finally crossed my 100 hour. I have so much to talk about. My 100 hour being a pilot from the moment I started flight school, which is in December of 2024. I've worked my way all the way up to now get my private pilot's license last month. I think I forget. Anyway, it was June. It was a little bit around 6 months to get that private pilot license. I was originally supposed to take the exam May 25th, but it got pushed back due to weather issues. But either way, I completed it, and let me tell you something. I'm so thankful. I'm so happy it's over. It was amazing, though. It was a great journey, but I'm definitely move on. So here, I'm about to tell you a couple little stories. To the private pilot. So what happened with getting in to become a private pilot, I actually came to California to finish off the rest of my private pilot. I came here with about 20 hours. At around 55-ish hours, I was particularly ready to take my private pilot exam, which, as y'all know, I studied a lot for. I studied very hard. It was a lot of work, and one of the biggest issues is you don't know what you don't know. And I spent a lot of time not knowing what I don't know. And so Shane, Amber, Avnil at the time, and also the new guy, Aaron, who at the end really helped out a lot, basically prepared me and got me ready, which has been really amazing. And so I've completed my private pilot certificate at this point. So one of the things I had an issue with was actually getting an examiner, which I've heard for many, many times that examiner is always an issue. What usually it is if you don't have one in your back pocket. But because this is my first time, they were trying to get an examiner here. They tried to get someone from Colorado, somebody from Montana. There was some just issues with weather, timing, schedules. Either way, I ended up getting booked with an examiner here in Sacramento. And the examiner was amazing. Actually, he sent his list of things he wanted. It was like, you could book him a week out specifically. He was very particular about the money. It was like $1,200 check ride. I know some people say it's expensive, but this is California and it just is what it is. So with the $1,200, he needed $600 up front as a deposit, and he wanted them in big bills. Literally specifically said big bills, which he had no problem doing. So got those 6 big bills for him, and then once gave him the big bills, I went meet with him at a coffee shop, and believe it or not, we had a great talk. You know, he's Eastern European and just a really cool guy. And Robert's just really cool. Like, we ended up talking. It was more like a conversation about just aviation in general, future plans, things like that. And really, we spoke for 2 hours, guys. 2 hours with Robert, and phenomenal examiner as far as a person, human being. He was really, really nice, very knowledgeable, just really a cool guy overall. So that was cool for 2 hours. But then at the very end of that meeting, come to find out, I was missing something. My medical name was a little different than the name that was on my student license, and also my IAPRA. It has to do with my middle name. I think this one was missing the S for Scott. And so he ended up giving me the money back, like, hey, it has to be exactly the same. I was like, oh wait, hold on, just give me by the rest of the evening to confirm it, which I did. And I was able to get back with him again and give him the deposit again. When I found out, I was able to book another medical. At this time I did a 3rd class because I'd already had a 1st class, and it was going to end in November this year. So I went to just get a 3rd class really quick with an examiner who booked me in last minute. I'm just so thankful for that examiner to do that in that group. I told them I was in a bind. They put me in there the next morning, knocked it out, and was able to get back with Robert to get my exam done. And so the exam was on, I guess, the Monday, and he came in for the oral. The weather was getting a little interesting, guys, but it was still enough. So he came in for the oral, and I'm not joking, sat down there, and he jumped right into it. Went right into the books, into the logbooks of the plane, and wanted to see, was the plane good? And so after he did all that, him, Shane, they talked, and another student was there. We kind of ran our mouth a little bit, and then he was like, all right, let's go. He gave me the breakdown of what it was going to be, what was going to happen, told me about a discontinuance, or you become a private pilot or fail. And so we began that journey. And the oral test, honestly, y'all, I was prepared. I thought I was underprepared originally, but actually I was very prepared for it. And it was definitely a conversation. It wasn't overkill. It was no tricks. It was just, here's a cross country, and let me know, how do you plan out this cross country? Explain to me these details. And it just kind of grew from there. And everything was like, well, tell me about this, tell me about that. Here's on the map, here's that on the map. If we were flying this way and, you know, a cumulonimbus cloud showed up, what do you do? He said that to say, and he said, do you know what a cumulonimbus cloud is? And then, you know, I was like, oh yeah, it means there's a thunderstorm, and I'll go 20 miles out. So he kind of told a story and like, let me kind of flow through the answer. So it was really, really a good oral exam. And I was always told, you know, you wait for the word, let's go fly. And so after sitting there for about 3 hours, 3.5 hours, just going back and forth about everything that I had understood in aviation, he was like, well, it's up to you if you want to go fly. And he said, it's up to me because the weather did change. The wind, it was beyond the personal limits that I put on my paperwork. We did personal limitations. So I thought it was safer just not to fly. And also doing those maneuvers, who want to be caught up in that type of situation in maneuvers, you know, when I'm trying to pass my practical, the flight part of the exam. So anyways, I did a discontinuance, which he said that was smart, no issue. And at the end, he told me, I trust you with my wife, my mother-in-law, even on Sundays twice. So I was like, whew, I really passed that. Wow. You know, I passed that oral. So the next time, so he signed me off for that, gave me the paperwork, and said, we'll meet again in about 10 days for the practical and the flight portion that had to do with his schedule. So that was on, I said Monday. No, that was on a Thursday. And so I was going to wait till not the next Monday, but the Monday after to reach out to him about it because there was some schedule conflicts. Well, anyway, he ended up calling me on Sunday and was like, hey, I got tomorrow available if you're down, you know, at noon. I was like, oh, okay. So I immediately contacted Shane. He was out of town. I ended up calling Aaron, the new instructor, and like, dude, I gotta get up in the plane like now. Let's get prepared. He's also gonna bring me to an airport outside of the airport, my home airport. So I gotta fly to the examiner to take the exam, like fly from that airport, which my airport that I fly out of is class E, and his airport was class D. And so I hadn't really done a lot of work in class D, which was, our airport changes. It has a temporary tower that's come and go. So, but at that moment, we hadn't done a class D in a while. And so Aaron, we flew there that day, but it had gotten late and the time changed. So Aaron just decided to fly with me on the day of the exam. Didn't even charge me. He was like, look, I'll just roll with you just to be safe. So he flew with me to the examiner, which I ended up doing the exam from there. We did the practical, and let me tell you something, y'all. Butter. I was impressed, even with myself. Almost all my maneuvers came out really well. There was some last minute stuff me and Aaron really talked about. He helped me practice a few more of the power on stalls, power off stalls on the way there. I just couldn't believe how everything was just perfect. Even my short field landings, I mean, it was just like on the money. Didn't even cross it like 100 feet. I was like, wow, look at God. So it was just an amazing experience for the flight portion of the exam. It was just in a whole different area. I had never practiced over there, but it just had me in a whole new environment. He made me do pilotage right off the gate and literally like make sure I could understand maps. And it was a great experience. And he was really truly like a pastor. He just kept asking questions of, you know, what would I do here? What would I do there? And it was just an overall great experience. And then at last what he said, let's do a fun run, like a fun path after I did the short field and soft field. And that's when he pulled my power and I was able to land it down, do a slip to land, and boom, brought it down. So bring me back to the airport. I got there, back to his home airport, and man, he shook my hand. He said, you could park up close by the FBO because you are now a private pilot. I was so happy, y'all. So happy. It was a lot of work. Everyone knows it was just a lot of work. Everyone around me that helped out, everything, you know, I studied hard for this thing over and over and over. Lots of prayers, just getting it all figured out. And in the end, it was worth it. I was able to get that private pilot certificate. So yeah, y'all, I am finally in the club. But overall, just a great experience. And so with that, I now am beginning the instrument training, and which I did start a little bit already because it was such a gap between when I was ready to this moment. And but now I'm moving forward 100% into the instrument. So be ready for that next video. Be watching out for these next flights. Right now I'm just building hours, knocking it out. And I'm getting this video a little late because now I just hit my 100-hour today. So yeah, I actually passed my exam with, I think, 86 hours, something like that. 80-something hours. I think 80-something, yeah. So anyways, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Thank you for everybody that helped. Thank you for all the prayers and wishes. I appreciate you. Love you guys. I'll talk to you later.